Thanks, everyone. We're going to move on over here to the preparing volunteers section. I'm going to roll through this pretty quick to catch us up on time. Some of the key points to keep in mind: responsiveness is the key principle for phone line service. This means that trusted servants should engage with callers in a sensitive, appropriate, and helpful manner. Leadership qualities such as integrity, the ability to listen, and sound judgment are essential in providing phone line service. Phone line volunteers often have to perform in high pressure situations, and they are likely to be the first contact that people have with NA. A good suggestion is to avoid using NA jargon, such as "it works if you work it," home group, or get a sponsor, stuff like that. Use NA literature to present an accurate and positive message of recovery, and to clarify that the NA program is separate from treatment centers and other 12-step programs, and do not make commitments on behalf of the area, region, or the fellowship as a whole. If a professional or member of the public contacts an NA phone line, volunteers should provide as much information about NA as they can, solicit information from the public contact log, and follow up with the appropriate trusted servant, such as a committee chairperson or the area's media contact person. And just real quick, one of the things that I can't stress enough is NA jargon. We use that recovery language a lot in our meetings, and when we're new, it takes us some time to get used to it. I try to just speak regular English when I'm talking to anyone on the phone, whether it's a professional or family member, so that they understand the words that we're using. Sometimes even have to kind of give them a little bit of a glossary about what some of the terms are, and then it's really helpful to answer out of the literature directly if you can. If you're used to answering the same question over and over and use it pretty much right out of a pamphlet or something like that, it's really hard to go wrong with that. And so we're going to move on down. The entire section should take about 15 minutes, hopefully. And Caitlin's going to go real quick through this leadership part, and then specific call types. And then she's going to take a little bit of time to talk about the crisis call section, and Charmaine already referenced that. So go ahead.
So when we're talking about like who calls our phone lines, like you could get an addict on the phone, you could get non-addicts like family, like my son has a drug problem. You could get people, my boyfriend has a drug problem. I've gotten calls from professionals. I don't think I've ever had like a priest call, although that's on there. But we've gotten a lot of different calls. There are different, can you scroll back up, please? There are different types of calls. We have requests for like meeting information. I've had people call and ask me for general, like, who are you guys? What do you do? Can you be on drugs and come to the meeting? I've had calls. We had a call recently on our phone line from a neighboring county that wanted some information about NA and wanted some pamphlets. I've had people who are high call. Lindsay said that in your all's area, you guys have gotten some prank calls. I have had people who are mentally ill call, like a girl like that wanted to commit suicide once. I've had a bunch of different calls. So there are calls made by the public, including simple requests for NA, and then crisis calls. This is probably, so like the whole goal of the phone line is to get on the phone and off the phone in about 5 minutes and get the person to a meeting. Like that's the whole point of a phone call, right? But then sometimes like I've had crisis calls, and this is like the most important thing that you can deal, like that you're going to deal with, because this is where your liability is involved. Not only personal liability, but liability for Narcotics Anonymous too. Like our fellowship has insurance, or our like local fellowship has insurance for this. But so it's really important that we recognize that we are not trained professionals, and our whole goal is to get somebody to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And if they call saying something different, then I need to go to an NA meeting, then it's like Charmaine was saying earlier, we need to be quick to refer them to call 311 or suicide hotline or the local police or go to a hospital or do like, and when I say go to a hospital, don't be like, go to St. Elizabeth's. You say go to a hospital, because when we make a referral, we're not referring to any specific facility. You know, like we don't want to refer people to a specific treatment center. We only want to say just call 311, that's it, you know, or, you know, maybe use a search engine and look up treatment centers if you need a treatment center, because we're not affiliated with anything. We don't, you know, we don't want to break our traditions. So obviously those things are threats to commit suicide, a drug overdose, talking about being a victim of violence. You know, like I'm detoxing from benzos and alcohol and I need to know where to go to one of your classes to get off of this. Can you guys help me detox? Well, Narcotics Anonymous doesn't do that. You can call 311, they might be able to help you, or you can go to your nearest hospital or call a doctor. You know, like that's the, you know, canned answer on that one. So meeting recommendations. So we'll go back over to Shane, I guess, for that.
So everybody's a little bit different on this part about meeting recommendations. And this is something that your committee has to discuss amongst itself about what your local NA culture is like and what it's kind of shown. I'll just read through it and then I'll talk about why I said that. You know, it says volunteers can respect callers' request and recommend a meeting where they are likely to find addicts with whom they may identify. We do not, however, automatically assume that because someone is of a certain age, gender, ethnicity, or sexual identity, that they will want a meeting recommendation. If there are no common needs meetings in an area, but there are meetings where, for example, a larger population of young people regularly attends, then phone line volunteers can suggest these meetings to a caller who is asking for a recommendation. And so the reason I kind of gave the disclaimer at the beginning is that, you know, Kentucky is culturally, you know, it kind of has like, for instance, the Kentucky Survivors area, we don't have any common needs meetings. We have no men's, women's, or LGBTQ meetings, no young people's meetings, but Danny's in the waiting room there. You know, if you go to like Nashville, they have all those types of meetings. And so our phone lines function a little bit differently in how we would recommend people to those meetings. Again, that's something that you all have to talk about amongst yourselves about what you're comfortable with and not comfortable with. And then just kind of go from there. 12-step calls. A lot of us that have been around a while have probably been on a 12-step call some way or another. You know, 12-step call is usually a request for assistance to get to a meeting. We carry NA's message through the 12-step calls. A 12-step call can mean that 2 or more addicts provide a ride to an NA meeting, or that volunteers simply talk with the caller, helping the potential member get to a meeting on their own. And when possible, members meet those requesting a ride to a meeting in a public place. It's always suggested that you do a 12-step call, like a physical 12-step call, if you're going to go pick someone up with other people, so that you're not alone. You never really know what kind of situation you're walking into. Over the years, I've had some really wonderful experiences, and I've had some terribly dangerous experiences because I did not respect these kind of suggestions that are coming up. So again, that's something you got to talk about. If you all decide 12-step, like an actual 12-step pick someone up to a meeting is not mandatory if you're on the phone line committee. But maybe there are a couple volunteers that want to do that. I know like Mike is real big on that, and I respect that. You know, I've done a lot of 12-step calls. And Mike, you want to take a second, maybe you want to talk about maybe a 12-step call you've done over the years that you remember or something like that? I know you've done a bunch of them.
Yeah, I've never done 12-step off the phone line. And I learned the hard way that 12-step calls without a partner, so to speak, is not a good idea. I would suggest, if, especially off the phone line, if you're going to go get somebody and get them to wherever, because a lot of times you can't get somebody out of a house, or, you know, they're stuck in the trap house and they called and they want some help, and they just want to, a lot of times they just want to tell you about what they need, and they're not willing to do anything different. So it's really important to look at our manuals, which say 12-step calls are not a good idea alone. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
I think the one thing about 12-step calls that sticks out in my head was we had a volunteer here. Like, so our area generally doesn't do 12-step calls. Like, we invite people to like meet us at a meeting, but we won't come pick you up, you know? And we had, it was a guy that was our PI chair at the time, or PR chair. Like, he went and he like got a phone line call and he went and he picked this guy up, and the guy left his backpack in his car, right? And so not only was there drugs in the backpack, even though they weren't illegal, they're still drugs to us in the guy's backpack, but there was also a library book. And so when the volunteer found out there was drugs in the car, he got really mad. And even though we had told him not to do it, he was like, I'm not giving the guy his backpack back, right? And so then now this guy thinks that, like, he was calling the phone line because he had to return his library book. And so now the guy associates like NA with stealing his library book, right? So it's just like, there's so much that can go wrong, I feel like, with the 12-step call. That's why our area just usually doesn't do it. And we say, just, can you meet us at a meeting instead? So referrals, this is like big. We do not give referrals to one specific treatment center or detox unit. I'm gonna read that again for anybody who missed it. We do not give referrals to one specific treatment center or detox unit. Instead, we can provide a list of any and all local treatment centers, but we don't even do that in our area. We just refer people to 311 or say, use the search engine and figure it out yourself, because we just have not had a good experience with that. If a caller has a local telephone directory, we can direct them to the services listed there, aka say, use your search engine and look it up. The same principle is true for suicide prevention numbers and other community service numbers. Family members and loved ones of addicts frequently call our phone lines. Volunteers can provide numbers for Nar-Anon and Families Anonymous or other similar information. Remember that we don't recommend one program over another.
All right, so y'all, what's going to happen next is Caitlin's going to briefly show how the new phone line works that we've installed. But before we go to that, I just want to kind of scroll down through this, and we're going to do the role playing here in just a minute. Caitlin and Charmaine are, but this document goes on with a couple more questions, and then it's kind of got a phone line flow chart of what one can look like. And then it's got some frequently asked questions. We'll make sure that we'll send the link to this document out to everyone. You can download it and use it. You know, these are a lot of the common questions that we all have probably experienced. So I just wanted to show that real quick before I stop the screen share.